A screenshot appears, a blurry image of what looks like a new Hyrule, text describing never-before-seen mechanics. Suddenly, the entire Zelda community is on fire. But here's the question that changes everything. How do you know if what you're seeing is the real deal or an elaborate hoax? Because when it comes to Zelda leaks, the line between truth and fiction is razor thin, and getting it wrong, that can send thousands of fans down a rabbit hole of false expectations. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the entire world of Zelda leaks, teaching you exactly how to separate legitimate insider information from clever fan fiction. The Legend of Zelda franchise has a unique relationship with leaks. Unlike many gaming franchises, Nintendo guards Zelda secrets with almost mythical intensity. The company's security measures are legendary, NDAs that could end careers, development teams compartmentalized so thoroughly that even internal staff don't know the full picture, and legal actions swift enough to make leakers think twice. Yet despite all this, genuine leaks do happen. The question isn't whether leaks exist, it's how to identify them. Let's establish something critical right from the start. Not all leaks are created equal. The gaming community has seen everything from pixel-perfect screenshots that turned out to be masterful fakes to vague text posts that somehow predicted entire game mechanics months before official reveals. Understanding the anatomy of a leak, what makes it credible versus what makes it suspect, is absolutely essential for any Zelda fan who wants to engage with pre-release speculation without getting burned. So what exactly constitutes a leak in the first place? In the gaming industry, a leak is unauthorized disclosure of confidential information about an unreleased or unannounced product. This can come from multiple sources: development team members who violate their NDAs, retail employees who see promotional materials early, data miners who extract hidden files from existing games or demos, journalists with inside sources, even manufacturing partners who produce physical game components months before release. Each source type has different credibility markers, different motivations, and different levels of reliability. The history of Zelda leaks is absolutely fascinating. Let's look at some verified examples that actually came true. Before Breath of the Wild's official reveal at E3 2016, rumors circulated about an open-world Zelda with voice acting and a departure from traditional dungeon structure. Many fans dismissed these as wishful thinking. Zelda had never done full voice acting for main characters. But those leaks, they were accurate. The information came from sources close to the development team, and while Nintendo never confirmed the leaks beforehand, everything described eventually appeared in the final game. Similarly, Tears of the Kingdom had legitimate leaks approximately 6 months before release. Information about Sky Islands, vehicle construction mechanics, and Zonai technology appeared on forums and social media. At the time, skeptics pointed out the absurdity. Link building vehicles in a Zelda game? It sounded more like fan fiction than legitimate gameplay. Yet when Nintendo finally revealed the game's mechanics, those exact systems were front and center. The leaks had been genuine. But for every real leak, there are dozens, sometimes hundreds of fake ones. And here's where things get dangerous. Fake leaks spread faster than real ones because they're designed to be exciting. They promise exactly what fans want to hear: revolutionary mechanics, beloved characters returning, connections to fan-favorite games. The problem? When fans invest emotionally in fake leaks, the eventual disappointment can sour their experience with the actual game. This is why verification matters so much. Let's break down the first major verification method: source analysis. Who is making the claim? This is question number 1, and it's absolutely critical. Anonymous forum posts from brand new accounts? Extremely suspect. A journalist with a proven track record of accurate industry reporting? Much more credible. Gaming insiders like Jason Schreier, Jeff Grubb, or other reporters who've accurately leaked information in the past carry significant weight because their reputations are on the line. They vet their sources, they corroborate information, and they understand that one major false leak can destroy years of credibility. But even reputable sources can be wrong. This is where cross-referencing becomes essential. Does the leak appear in multiple places from different sources? If three independent insiders are saying similar things without coordinating, that's a strong signal. If only one person is making the claim and nobody else can verify it, red flag. The Zelda community learned this lesson with the infamous Geno in Smash leaks that plagued speculation for years. One convincing fake can spawn countless copycat claims. Now, let's talk about visual evidence, because screenshots and video footage are where things get really tricky. Modern image editing tools are so sophisticated that creating fake Zelda screenshots is easier than ever. Fans have created concept images so convincing that even experienced gamers have been fooled. So how do you analyze visual leaks? Start with the fundamentals. First, examine the user interface. Nintendo has very specific design principles for Zelda games. Font choices, icon styles, button prompts, health displays, these elements maintain consistency across the franchise while evolving with each entry. A leak showing Breath of the Wild's exact UI in a supposedly new game? Probably fake, because Nintendo iterates on interface design with every release. Look at the progression from Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. Each game refined and updated the UI while maintaining recognizable elements. Second, scrutinize the graphics quality and art style. Is the visual fidelity consistent with Nintendo's known hardware capabilities? Does the art direction match the established aesthetic of recent Zelda titles? Here's a crucial detail. Nintendo's artists have specific techniques for rendering grass, water, lighting, and environmental effects. These techniques create a distinctive Zelda look that's difficult to replicate perfectly. Fan-made content often gets close, but close isn't exact. Pay attention to texture resolution, lighting behavior, and particle effects. These technical elements are harder to fake convincingly. Third, analyze any visible text or dialogue. Nintendo's localization teams follow strict grammatical standards and writing conventions. Awkward phrasing, spelling errors, or dialogue that doesn't match Nintendo's established tone, major warning signs. Official Zelda games undergo extensive editing and quality control. Mistakes in publicly released materials are extremely rare. Let's discuss metadata and technical analysis. Every digital image and video contains hidden information, metadata, that reveals details about when it was created, what software was used, and sometimes even what device captured it. Legitimate development screenshots often have specific metadata signatures. Development kits, internal capture software, and Nintendo's proprietary tools leave digital fingerprints. While sophisticated fakers can manipulate metadata, most don't bother because most people don't check. Learning basic metadata analysis tools can instantly expose many fakes. Now here's something fascinating, the Nintendo Direct pattern. Nintendo has established predictable rhythms for major announcements. Direct presentations typically happen at specific times of year. Major Zelda reveals almost always occur at at major gaming showcases since E3 has ended, or during dedicated Nintendo Direct events. Leaks claiming imminent announcements outside these windows should raise immediate suspicion. While surprise announcements do happen, they're the exception, not the rule. Let's talk about gameplay mechanics described in leaks. This is where understanding Zelda's design philosophy becomes crucial. The franchise has core principles that Nintendo rarely violates. Exploration, puzzle solving, combat, and progression systems all follow established patterns. A leak describing mechanics that fundamentally contradict these principles? Questionable at best. For example, a leak claiming the next Zelda will be a turn-based RPG or a first-person shooter? Almost certainly fake, because such drastic genre shifts would alienate the core audience Nintendo has cultivated for nearly 38 decades. However, and this is important, Nintendo does innovate. Breath of the Wild shattered numerous Zelda conventions. Weapon durability, non-linear dungeon progression, survival mechanics, voice acting, these were all departures from tradition. So how do you distinguish between plausible innovation and implausible fabrication? Context and internal consistency. Breath of the Wild's innovations all served the game's open-world philosophy. Every change supported the core design goal of player freedom and exploration.
Legitimate leaks describing innovations should explain how those innovations serve the game's vision, not just what they are. Let's examine a hypothetical leak to demonstrate analysis in action. Imagine a post claiming the next Zelda features spirit fusion, where Link combines with spirits of fallen heroes to gain new abilities. How would we evaluate this? First, source check. Is this from someone credible? If it's an anonymous forum post, skepticism is warranted. Second, does this mechanic fit Zelda's established patterns? Link gaining temporary power-ups from spiritual entities actually has precedent. The wolf transformation in Twilight Princess, the spirit tracks in Spirit Tracks, and even the champion abilities in Breath of the Wild follow similar concepts. So mechanically, it's not implausible.
Third, are there supporting details? Legitimate leaks often include mundane specifics that fakers overlook, things like menu navigation, control schemes, or minor technical details. Fakes tend to focus only on exciting headline features while ignoring the boring implementation details. A leak that describes spirit fusion but can't explain how players access the mechanic, what the UI looks like, or how it integrates with existing systems, probably fabricated. Fourth, timing analysis. When did this leak appear? If it surfaces years before the game's expected release, it's more likely speculation or wishful thinking. If it appears months before a major gaming event when Nintendo typically makes announcements, more plausible. Development cycles follow schedules, and information tends to leak at specific points, usually during the marketing ramp-up period when more people internally gain access to materials. Let's talk about data mining, because this is one of the most reliable sources of leak information. Data miners extract code and assets from released games, updates, and demos. When Nintendo includes placeholder files, unused assets, or accidentally leaves development comments in publicly distributed code, data miners find it. These discoveries are verifiable because anyone with the tools can examine the same files and reach the same conclusions. Tears of the Kingdom had significant data mining discoveries before release, files referencing mechanics that weren't shown in trailers, asset names hinting at story elements, code suggesting features that later appeared in the final game. Data mining isn't speculation, it's hard evidence extracted directly from Nintendo's own files. However, data miners must be careful. Leftover code from canceled features, test content never intended for release, and placeholder assets can all create misleading impressions. Responsible data miners clarify when discoveries represent confirmed content versus potential cut content. Now let's address the weapon durability topic since it's mentioned in many recent leak discussions. After Breath of the Wild introduced weapon breaking and Tears of the Kingdom continued the system, community feedback has been passionate. Some players love strategic resource management, others despise constantly losing favorite weapons. So when leaks claim the next Zelda will reimagine weapon durability, how credible is this? Actually, quite credible. Nintendo actively monitors community feedback. The company has a history of iterating on controversial systems. The CDI games were disavowed, the timeline was eventually made official, and even fundamental mechanics like camera controls have evolved based on player response. But here's the nuance. Reimagining durability could mean many things. More durability, repair mechanics, unbreakable weapons with other trade-offs. Legitimate leaks would specify the implementation, not just promise vague improvements. Beware leaks that pander to community desires without providing concrete details. Those are often fan wish-casting disguised as insider information. Let's talk about lore-based leaks, particularly anything involving the Triforce. The Triforce is Zelda's most iconic element, appearing in nearly every game with varying significance. Leaks claiming new Triforce powers or reimagined Triforce mechanics tap into fan excitement, but they require extraordinary evidence. Why? Because Nintendo treats the Triforce with reverence. Changes to such fundamental lore elements would be carefully considered and thoroughly integrated into the narrative. A leak describing Triforce changes should explain the thematic reasoning, not just promise cool new powers.
Similarly, leaks about Ganondorf's lineage or new interpretations of his character need scrutiny. The Zelda timeline, officially documented in Hyrule Historia and updated in subsequent publications, establishes specific rules about Ganondorf's reincarnation and connection to Demise's curse. Legitimate leaks about Ganondorf would respect this established continuity, rather than contradicting it. Unless Nintendo explicitly decides to reboot or retcon the timeline, which they could do, but that would be such a massive decision that leaks about it would likely come with extensive supporting evidence. Here's a critical point about leak culture that often gets overlooked: the difference between leaks and speculation. Gaming journalists, YouTubers, and community theorists often present educated guesses based on available evidence. This isn't leaking, it's analysis. When someone says, based on hiring patterns and trademark filings, Nintendo appears to be developing a new Zelda game, that's deductive reasoning from public information. When someone says, my source at Nintendo says the new Zelda features underwater exploration, that's an alleged leak. The distinction matters because speculation can be wrong without anyone being dishonest, while false leaks represent either intentional deception or failed verification. Let's talk about the psychology of why fake leaks spread. Humans are wired for pattern recognition and storytelling. When we see information that fits our expectations or desires, we're more likely to believe it without rigorous verification. This is called confirmation bias, and it's powerful in gaming communities.
A leak claiming your favorite character returns or your wished-for mechanic is included, your brain wants it to be true, so you lower your skeptical guard. Recognizing this bias in yourself is the first step to more objective leak evaluation. Social media amplification makes this worse. A single fake leak posted on Reddit can be screenshotted, shared on Twitter, discussed on YouTube, and reported on gaming news sites within hours. Each sharing adds apparent credibility. Everyone's talking about it, so it must be real, even though everyone's actually just repeating the same unverified claim. This is why checking primary sources matters. Trace the leak back to its origin. If every article and video ultimately references the same anonymous post, you haven't found corroboration, you found an echo chamber. Now, let's discuss Nintendo's own leak prevention strategies, because understanding their security helps evaluate leak plausibility. Nintendo uses compartmentalized development, meaning different teams work on different aspects without seeing the whole picture. Marketing materials are created on secured systems. Test builds contain tracers and watermarks that identify exactly which version was leaked and potentially who leaked it. When you hear about Nintendo pursuing legal action against leakers, it's not just to punish, it's to deter future leaks by demonstrating serious consequences. This security culture means legitimate leaks usually come with risk for the leaker. Someone sharing genuine Nintendo secrets is potentially ending their career, facing legal action, and burning industry bridges. This high cost means real leakers tend to be strategic. They share information in ways that minimize traceability. They often use intermediaries like journalists who protect sources, and they usually have specific motivations beyond just wanting attention. Understanding these dynamics helps evaluate whether a leak's presentation matches the behavior of someone with actual insider access. Let's examine retail leaks because these deserve special attention. Retail employees sometimes see game boxes, promotional displays, or internal marketing materials before public announcement. These leaks often manifest as photos of storage rooms, shipping manifests, or promotional calendars. How do you verify retail leaks? First, check if the materials match Nintendo's design standards for retail products. Second, verify whether the retailer name, date stamps, and other contextual details are consistent. Third, look for corroboration. Retail materials typically reach multiple stores simultaneously, so if something's real, multiple employees from different locations should be able to confirm it. Here's something crucial about evaluating leak timelines. Nintendo's development and marketing cycles follow patterns. Major Zelda titles typically require 4 to 6 years of development. Marketing campaigns usually begin 6 to 12 months before release. If a leak appears claiming a major new Zelda game will release in 3 months when Nintendo hasn't even announced it, almost certainly false. Nintendo could surprise everyone, but decades of established practice suggests they won't deviate from proven marketing strategies without compelling reason. Let's address the trusted insider phenomenon. Certain individuals have built reputations for accurate gaming leaks.
But here's the thing, even trusted insiders have limited access. Someone who accurately leaked information about Mario games might have zero access to Zelda development. Be wary of insiders who claim knowledge across multiple unrelated projects, especially if they're sharing information outside their established area of reliability. Real insiders typically have narrow, specific access tied to their actual role or connections. Now, what about the too good to be true test? If a leak promises everything fans have been begging for, beloved characters returning, controversial mechanics removed, dream collaborations happening, skepticism is warranted. Real game development involves compromises, constraints, and decisions that won't please everyone. A leak that sounds like a fan wish list probably is a fan wish list. Legitimate insider information usually includes at least some details that are surprising, unexpected, or even potentially controversial, because real creative decisions rarely align perfectly with community consensus. Let's talk about language and writing style in text-based leaks. Professional game developers and marketing teams write in specific ways. Press releases follow templates. Internal documentation uses industry jargon correctly. Marketing copy has distinctive rhythmic patterns. Fake leaks often reveal themselves through awkward phrasing, incorrect terminology, or writing that sounds like fan fiction rather than professional communication. Someone claiming to have seen internal Nintendo documents but writing in casual Reddit speak? Red flag. Here's a fascinating aspect, the controlled leak phenomenon. Sometimes companies intentionally leak information to gauge public reaction, test marketing messages, or build hype without official commitment. These controlled leaks are real information, but strategically released.
They're particularly tricky to identify because the information is accurate, but the framing might be deliberately incomplete or misleading. Nintendo is generally not known for controlled leaks. They prefer tight secrecy, but it's worth remembering that not all leaks are accidents. Let's examine the role of trademarks and corporate filings. These public records sometimes reveal Nintendo's plans months or years early. Trademark applications for game titles, character names, or specific phrases must be filed before products launch. Savvy fans monitor trademark databases for Nintendo filings. These aren't leaks in the traditional sense. They're official public records, but they provide legitimate advance information. A trademark filing for a Zelda-related name? That's verifiable evidence worth paying attention to. However, not all trademarks result in products. Companies filed defensive trademarks to protect ideas they might never use. Now let's discuss the difference between insiders and industry observers. Industry observers analyze public information, hiring patterns, corporate statements, and market trends to make educated predictions. They might be incredibly accurate without having any actual insider information. True insiders have access to confidential development materials, marketing plans, or strategic decisions. The distinction matters because being wrong as an observer just means your analysis was off. Being wrong as an insider suggests you either fabricated information or your source was unreliable. Here's something many leak evaluators miss: checking for internal consistency. Does the leak's information contradict itself? If a leak claims the game releases in 2025, but also mentions features that would clearly require years more development, that's suspicious. If someone claims to have seen gameplay but describes impossible control schemes given Nintendo Switch hardware limitations, they're probably lying. Real information maintains logical consistency because it's describing something that actually exists. Let's talk about video leaks specifically, because motion footage is harder to fake convincingly than static images. But harder doesn't mean impossible. Modern editing tools, game engines, and AI technology enable creation of remarkably convincing fake gameplay footage. Evaluation criteria include frame rate consistency, control responsiveness timing, UI behavior, lighting physics, and animation quality. Does everything move like a real game running on real hardware, or are there subtle tells, unnatural transitions, impossible camera movements, or graphical inconsistencies that reveal editing tricks? Another crucial verification method, checking against Nintendo's established communication patterns. Nintendo has specific ways of announcing games, structuring presentations, and releasing information. They use particular phrases, follow consistent formatting, and maintain brand voice across all official channels.
Leaked materials claiming to be official Nintendo communications should match these patterns exactly. A supposed Nintendo press release with formatting errors, unusual phrasing, or inconsistent branding? Almost certainly fabricated. Let's address the coincidence or confirmation problem. Sometimes leaks appear to become true not because they were legitimate, but because they made obvious predictions. If someone leaks that the next Zelda will feature exploration, puzzle solving, and combat, they're describing fundamental franchise elements, not secret information. Real leaks provide specific, surprising details that couldn't be easily guessed. When evaluating apparently accurate leaks, ask whether the correct predictions could have been lucky guesses rather than insider information. Here's a practical exercise for developing leak evaluation skills. Examine past fake leaks that were eventually debunked. The Zelda community has documented numerous convincing fakes over the years. Study them. What made them initially credible? What ultimately exposed them? Learning from historical examples builds pattern recognition for future leak assessment. Notice common tactics fake leakers use, psychological triggers they exploit, and verification steps that would have revealed the truth earlier. Now let's talk about community consensus versus individual judgment. When the entire Zelda community agrees a leak is fake, they're usually right. Collective skepticism from thousands of experienced fans is powerful. However, communities can also be wrong. Think group, echo chambers, and coordinated trolling can all create false consensus. Don't abandon critical thinking just because popular opinion leans one direction. Evaluate evidence independently, then compare your conclusions to community sentiment. If they differ, understand why rather than automatically conforming. Let's examine the ethics of leak consumption. When you share, discuss, or amplify leaks, you're potentially rewarding leaked information regardless of its accuracy. This creates incentives for more leaks, including fake ones. Some fans refuse to engage with leaks on principle, preferring to experience official reveals unspoiled.
Others actively seek leaks to maximize anticipation and preparation. There's no wrong answer, but understanding your own motivations and the broader ecosystem effects of leak culture helps make informed choices. Here's something important about managing expectations. Even real leaks represent development snapshots, not final products. Features described in legitimate leaks sometimes get cut, modified, or delayed before release. Mechanics that sound amazing in description might play awkwardly in practice. Story elements might be rewritten during production. Treating leaks as absolute promises leads to disappointment when reality differs. Healthy leak engagement maintains flexibility and understands that development is iterative. Let's discuss the intersection of leaks and marketing. Once information leaks, Nintendo must decide whether to confirm, deny, or ignore it. Each choice has strategic implications. Confirmation might be premature for marketing timelines. Denial could draw more attention. Silence leaves uncertainty. Nintendo typically chooses silence unless leaks significantly damage planned marketing campaigns. Understanding these corporate communication strategies helps interpret Nintendo's responses, or lack thereof, to specific leaks. Now here's a critical verification step many people skip, checking for original sources versus aggregators. When you see a leak reported on a gaming news site, did that site independently verify the information, or are they just reporting someone else's claim? Trace back to the original post, image, or video. If the original source is anonymous, unverifiable, or already deleted, exercise extreme caution. Legitimate leaks usually have clear provenance, even if the leaker remains anonymous. Let's talk about the burden of proof principle. In leak evaluation, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A leak claiming the next Zelda will play exactly like previous Zelda games needs minimal proof, because that's expected. A leak claiming the next Zelda will be a first-person multiplayer battle royale needs massive evidence, because that would represent revolutionary change. Weight your skepticism according to claim extremity. The more radical the alleged information, the higher your verification standard should be.
Here's something fascinating about leak culture evolution. As fake leak creation becomes more sophisticated, so do verification techniques. The arms race between leakers and skeptics drives innovation on both sides. Deepfakes, AI-generated content, and advanced editing tools make faking easier. Metadata analysis, blockchain verification, and community-sourced fact-checking make detection better. Staying current with both deception techniques and verification tools is essential for accurate leak evaluation. Let's address the partial truth phenomenon. Some leaks mix real information with fabricated details, making them extremely tricky to evaluate. A leaker might have genuine access to minor details, then pad their leak with invented information to seem more impressive. This creates partial credibility. Some facts check out, making the entire leak seem legitimate when actually only fragments are true. When verifying leaks, evaluate each claim independently rather than treating the entire leak as all true or all false. Now let's talk about what to do when you encounter a leak. First, resist the urge to immediately share it. Take time to verify. Second, check the source's history. Have they leaked before? Were previous leaks accurate? Fourth, look for corroboration from other sources. Fifth, analyze the leak's content using the criteria we've discussed. Finally, consider the motivation. What does the leaker gain from sharing this? Finally, decide whether engaging with potentially false information serves your interests or just creates unnecessary hype and potential disappointment. Here's something important about Nintendo's relationship with leaks. The company takes intellectual property protection seriously and has successfully pursued legal action against leakers multiple times. This aggressive stance means real leakers take substantial risks. It also means Nintendo occasionally succeeds in shutting down legitimate leaks before they spread widely. If you see a leak that quickly disappears with claims of legal threats, that's actually a credibility indicator. Nintendo rarely bothers with obviously fake leaks, but acts swiftly against real ones. Let's examine the future of leak culture as technology evolves. Artificial intelligence can now generate convincing game screenshots, dialogue, and even gameplay footage. Blockchain technology might eventually enable verified provenance for legitimate leaks. Cryptocurrency and encrypted communication tools change how leakers share information and protect their identity. The leak landscape in 5 years will likely be dramatically different from today. Staying adaptable and continuously updating verification skills is essential for anyone engaging with pre-release game information. So what's the ultimate lesson here? Leaks are part of gaming culture, and they're not going anywhere. The key to healthy engagement is critical thinking, verification discipline, and emotional management.
Enjoy the speculation, participate in community discussion, but maintain appropriate skepticism, verify before amplifying, and remember that official reveals are always the definitive source of truth. When Nintendo finally announces the next Zelda game, that's when we'll really know what's coming. The thrill of leaks comes from the mystery, the insider knowledge, the feeling of being ahead of the curve. But that thrill should never override good judgment. Every time you encounter a leak, ask yourself the critical questions. Who's sharing this? What's their track record? Does the information make sense? Are there supporting details? Can this be verified? Is this plausible given Nintendo's history? When you approach leaks with this analytical framework, you protect yourself from disappointment while still enjoying the speculation game. And here's the beautiful irony. By the time you've thoroughly verified a leak, Nintendo has often already made the official announcement. The gap between legitimate leaks and official reveals is usually quite short, so while leak culture feels like getting information early, in practice, patience often yields the same information with guaranteed accuracy. The question becomes whether the brief time advantage is worth the verification effort and disappointment risk. For the Zelda community specifically, leak culture has created both incredible hype and frustrating false trails. Remember the endless speculation before Breath of the Wild? The theories, the supposed insider information, the convincing fakes? Most of it was wrong, but when Nintendo finally revealed the game, it exceeded even the wildest legitimate leaks. That pattern has repeated with Tears of the Kingdom and will likely repeat with future titles. Nintendo's creativity consistently surprises us, often rendering leaks obsolete by revealing something even better than we imagined.
So as you navigate future Zelda leaks, remember everything we've discussed. Source credibility, visual analysis, metadata checking, internal consistency, Nintendo's patterns, verification techniques, community consensus, and healthy skepticism. These tools transform you from passive leak consumer to active critical evaluator. You won't be perfect, nobody is, but you'll make far fewer mistakes than those who blindly accept or share every exciting claim that crosses their feed. The next major Zelda announcement, whenever it comes, will generate countless leaks, rumors, and speculation. Some will be real, most will be fake. Your ability to tell the difference will determine whether you spend months excited about genuine future features or disappointed about promised content that never existed. Choose wisely, verify thoroughly, and above all, remember that the best Zelda experiences are the ones we actually play, not the ones we merely imagine based on questionable leaks. The truth is out there, hidden among the fakes and fabrications, but with the right tools, the right mindset, and the right verification discipline, you can find it. Until Nintendo's next official reveal, stay skeptical, stay curious, and stay excited for whatever amazing adventure awaits in Hyrule's future.